He just keeps doing the craziest stuff on the ice as Demidov fires an insane behind-the-back pass, not to mention playing on a line with Evgeny Kuznetsov and his own coach, Roman Rottenberg, who scores in this clip in the SKA preseason. Demidov playing with some pretty elite line mates, and that has some huge implications for what we're going to see from him this season. Jesse, we got to get into that, though. Demidov has still become somehow underrated at this point, as on a recent list, Corey Pronman of The Athletic takes this player you're seeing here with this incredible skill, ranks him below Slafkovsky, ranks him 17th in terms of all players under 23, and there's a lot more Montreal Canadiens that we gotta talk about. That's a little note on Mattias Norlinder, all coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. And we're going to start with Mattias Norlinder. Well, that's the wrong chapter. But you know what? We're just not going to bring up chapters. This still isn't as good as I thought. That's the wrong thing. But you know what? Who cares? It doesn't even matter. We got to talk about Mattias Norlinder. That kind of fits. Jesse, we talked about him a bit in the last video. But it's done. He declined the offer. We heard that he was going to get an offer probably for, less than what they would have signed him for. They released him, gave him another chance to come back at probably a lower cap hit. And the report is that he declined it, as Laval Rocket defenseman has declined the Habs contract offer, says Gunnar Nordstrom. It was made over the weekend, comes after the Canadiens let Norlinder walk to free agency in June. Jesse, what are your feelings on Mattias Norlinder leaving the org? I mean, I really liked this guy. He was hyped for so much. He had such an amazing training camp before, and we were ready for him to take that leap. He never did, but I honestly just really hope he finds a great home somewhere else, whether it's in the NHL or maybe overseas.
It's too bad that it didn't work out, but it definitely seems like his prospects will be best served by going overseas at this point. It was a little bit of a roller coaster ride, Josh. I was excited where finally he had that good camp after a little bit of ups and downs that maybe he could kind of make it translate in the AHL, but unfortunately only 9 points in 50 games last year for the type of offensive defenseman that he is just not enough. We know that the skill was there. Unfortunately, at 6 foot, not being overly huge just for whatever reason, wasn't able to make it work. I don't think that that's a blueprint for all kind of smaller type defensemen. Just in his case, not really able to make it happen. Fortunately, there's a good news for him. They did a crowd GoFundMe for him, some crowdfunding for him to get a spot, it seems like, in Sweden. So it looks like he's going to be playing over there very soon.
I would love that. I'd love to see him back in the SHL because I really think that in the right situation, he can thrive. I just think at this point, the NHL game, it just hasn't seemed to suit him. And that is what it is. Not everyone needs to make the NHL. Not everyone can be a star prospect. So just wish the best for Norlinder. Not going to spend too much time on this as that video pops back up. We'll get into that a little bit later. Things are getting chaotic right off the bat in this video, but wish the best for Norlinder. But Jesse, I want to quickly move on to something else. And I want to move on to Corey Pronman's recent under 23 list. It'll be linked down below. I suggest you guys go check it out. Ranking the best NHL players and prospects under 23. Bedard, Stützle, and Celebrini top the list. They're in that elite tier. There's no surprise there. But what was a bit surprising is the first mention of the Habs. And I'm not even going to get into that right away. I just want to show you what Tier 2 is. Tier 2 is bubble elite players, not quite elite, and NHL All-Star. Bubble elite and NHL All-Star tier players. This is it. Leo Carlson, Luke Hughes, Matvei Michkov, and Artem Levshunov. And no Demidov. It's like, okay, I know Pronman's been a bit low on Demidov. Well, where are Demidov and Slaf? Where are these guys? They find themselves at 15 and 17. Now, I know we love Slavzilla, but Demidov, I would arguably have him above Slaf. So here you're in Tier 3. This is the NHL All-Star tier, which is still not bad for these guys. For an under 23 list to have a 20-year-old and a 19-year-old, I'm okay with that. But at the same time, looking at some names above them, Alexis Lafreniere, Matty Beniers, who's coming off a sub 40-point season, I believe. Carter Yakemchuk. What? Anton Salayev, okay. Wyatt Johnston, meh. Jesse, this to me, I mean, we're going to get into some more stuff in a bit, but this to me just screams underrated. I mean, look, I'm not asking these guys to be in the elite tier, but seeing some of the names ahead of them honestly just has me very confused.
Analyst after analyst has this as one of the best prospect pools in the entire NHL. So, Josh, I too was very surprised to see two of our top prospects or players, young players at this point, at 15 and 17. That's, for me, is way too low if you have one of the best prospect pools in this league. That is for sure. I think a big thing here, just to kind of take a note when we're kind of reflecting on this list, is it's hard definitely with prospects to kind of determine of where they're going to be in the future, especially because so much of their future is really outside of the analyst's hands. They can have so many tools on the checkbox, but for whatever reason doesn't turn out. Just in that defense of Corey Pronman there, I would have to say though that the model is suspect in some type of ways. I would say for sure, like I would definitely have a Demidov, ahead of a Fantilli, on this list for sure. I think that Slaf, while size is kind of valued so much by him, I really don't see him as being that low. For Reinbacher, I know that we're not there yet, and with Guhle, but like he had them listed as like middle pairing type of guys. You have to think that Cayden, Guhle, or Reinbacher, as in the peak of their careers, which this model is what it's based off of what they will become in their career. And that's why I find this even a little bit more suspect, is we're not judging them right now. It's like of what they will become, right? Like you have to feel like Demidov will be an elite player, and Reinbacher, Guhle, even on a competitive Montreal team, one of them definitely has to end up being a top pairing guy.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like to me, that's exactly what Montreal is building towards. Like I think that's what they see in them. That's what I see in them. And I actually don't even have a picture of them because it's hard to get a picture of everyone on this list. But I think Guhle was 55 in the mid 50s. Reinbacher was in the mid 60s. It's like, okay, you got to be higher than mid-tier NHL defensemen, though. Again, like, it's okay. I get it. Like, Guhle had to step back offensively, but so did Matty Beniers. And David Reinbacher had a rough year. One thing I wanted to just pick out quick, because I want to get through this, because we got to get to some Demidov stuff after. He kind of mentions, like, the big thing with Corey Pronman, a lot of the time, the size comes up. And, when he mentions Demidov, he's like, Demidov's not the biggest winger. Demidov is 6'1", 192. That is taller than the average NHL forward as of 2024, which is 6 foot and half an inch. It's heavier than a lot of NHL forwards. Not to mention, it's about 15 pounds heavier and about 3 inches taller than Matvei Michkov. So just wanted to put that out there. Just wanted to say. But the other guy, Jesse, that gets disrespected because of his size, and he's below guys like Guhle and Reinbacher as well, is Lane Hutson at 87, below the likes of Jet Lachenko, Connor Geekie, Cole Baudouin. This, to me, is the single most egregious thing. He's in tier 7. I know Corey Pronman has never been necessarily high on Hutson. I will give Pronman credit. Again, I don't think this is a bad list. I definitely don't agree with it, but he has his own reasons for putting people in certain places, and he's been very consistent with what he has liked and not liked. This, to me, I think is the most egregious. And to only have Justin Barron 12 spots behind Hutson, too, is kind of insane to me. I get it. You want to see some more, but I'm not happy seeing him this low, considering the insane offensive potential he has, despite his size.
That's a big one. There is a huge gap between him and Justin Barron. I think that Lane is definitely a glaring kind of omission not to have him earlier up on this list. And a big thing for me, Josh, I would have to mention is just like when they're breaking down the player for Slaf, is they mentioned that his compete being, kind of average. Yeah. And for me, there's absolutely nothing about stuff. Like, have you seen this guy on an exercise bike? Have you seen him competing for a puck along the boards in a board battle? Like, this guy competes like there's no tomorrow. It's one of the biggest things about him. He's a workhorse, in fact. So that's just one of the biggest things. We know Corey Pronman, prolific and being very good when it's coming to the drafts. And we're not trying to knock him too much.
No, not at all.
Prospects, it's just, we have to feel like with such a great group, we definitely consistently should be having a lot of these players ranked a lot higher. Like Mayu, again, he broke a record last year for the Laval Rocket for goals scored by a defenseman. Having him listed at number 120 for me is far too low.
It's kind of crazy. There's a lot of Habs players that are just too low on this list. Let us know your thoughts down below. And again, big shout out to Pronman. It's not easy to do this. So you can pick and choose. We can be saying what we agree with, disagree with, but that's at the end of the day what it is. I don't hate this list. I don't hate the work. I definitely disagree with it, but go check it out down below. Let us know your thoughts. As again, I would put the chapter up, but I don't have it. So we're just going to get straight into the last thing. We talked a bit about Demidov, but it's time to get back into this. And this has big implications for his future development, Jesse. We're going to play these clips again. First off, this slow-mo behind the back pass is absolutely insane. I know we've seen Slaf pull off something similar to that. But the big thing here is this scrimmage, the SKA preseason scrimmage. And look, there's nothing crazy happening in this game. They're going low effort, but that's Evgeny Kuznetsov and his coach, Roman Rottenberg, on the same line. Here's Demidov himself. Little shimmy, little pass to his coach, little pass back, and the score. The thing with Demidov, he's just like, I know there's like, this is low effort, but still, the fact he's playing with these players, getting assists for his coach, and look at the coach, look at you, Ivan, you're doing so great. And look at that bucket on Rottenberg as well. Oh, unreal stuff. To me, Jesse, I don't know, I don't want to infer too much from this because, realistically, the idea of having a 19-year-old Demidov on the top line with former NHLer like Kuznetsov, top line or second line, whatever it might end up being, is a bit optimistic, I think, especially for an SKA team that is consistently in that fight to win the KHL. I think it would be pretty insane if he managed to do that right out the gate, but At the same time, it's like, you probably don't put him on a line with this guy. You probably don't have him practicing with Kuznetsov if you don't at least intend for them to play together in some capacity at some point. I don't know. Am I inferring too much from this, Jesse? I'm starting to think that, just having him get reps with these guys is telling us something really big for what's to come this year.
We saw that selling from Romberg. You know that Demidov's his favorite player on that team for sure. And why not? He was all over the ice with the breakaways and being a lot of the playmaker in this game as well, getting lots of assists. Like, as we see, having the goalie totally at his mercy, toying with him, in fact, as he kind of launches over. And again, we see the no look behind the pass, just the awareness on the ice to be knowing where your players are. And again, being creative out there is such a big thing for him. But on one of these goals, what surprised me the most is his ability to kind of look like Suzuki in a lot of ways, where he freezes the goalie to sell the shot so hard, to just kind of sell that pass. Like, who have we seen that before from? So deceptive. And if you overplay the pass, thinking that he's just going to set it up, then he's just going to snipe it on you, right? So this is when they're talking about him being like a triple threat in so many ways, and is basically taking over the game. His fingerprints is all over it. He just continues to amaze us here.
And look, I know it's super low effort. You can't actually glean anything from this. That's why I'm not saying like, this is going to be translatable to the NHL game. No, not necessarily. But I do think the people he's playing with, and just little subtle movements, Jesse, just like you said, just even those little subtle things when he's around the goalie, even to deceive a goalie in that situation is not necessarily the easiest thing to do, right? So there are some things that we can get excited about. Is this the most exciting highlight package we've ever shown on the channel? No, definitely not. However, the idea of Demidov playing with Kuznetsov, playing under a head coach that clearly loves him, that's, hey, pretty good at setting him up too, is really, really exciting. Let us know your thoughts about all these clips and his situation down below. We'd love to hear from you, because that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 15,000 subs. We'd love if you guys could help us hit that before the season starts. If you haven't hit sub, do it now. We'd really appreciate it. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.